so many wonderful games at Norway Chess 2024. I don't even know which one to cover with a very special video dedicated to. They're all wonderful. Okay, all the games at Norway Chess are absolutely formidable. Now, I picked up one today, particularly spectacular, beautiful, huge accuracy for Grandmaster Hikaru Nakamura against another formidable super Grandmaster from India, the young man Praggnanandhaa Rameshbabu, which had the black pieces. Nakamura was with white. Nimzo-Indian Defence. Incredibly important because you guys are going to notice how important it is to actually play the opening accurately. What happens, what is the price you pay if at this level you mess up the opening, which is exactly what happened yesterday when Rameshbabu defeated Magnus Carlsen. I think I should do a video for that game as well. Amazing games, but let's just proceed with this one here now. Okay, so Hikaru is white. D4. Okay, the queen's pawn. Okay, knight f6. It could be anything. C4 could be anything still yet. Could transpose into various things. Catalan, I mean, you name it. Knight c3. Bishop to b4. Now we'll get into the Nimzo-Indian. e3. Castles, all theoretical. Nothing in particular unusual. Okay, with the many possibilities. c5 here. a3, of course, trying to kick the knight away. Knight takes, and bishop captures now. Okay, there's nothing wrong with this one here. You played the knight again, attacking the bishop on c3. Of course, you could have taken on d4, cd. That's not a problem. That's another theoretical line. Let's go with the move that actually happened in the game. I want to get to that particular moment so you guys can judge for yourselves the importance of playing, especially at this level, incredibly accurate. So b6 now, which is a multi-purpose idea. You may want to, let me just toggle off those things and arrows and things. That's just annoying. Okay, right. So now you could get the bishop out in the game. It could be b7, could be a6, you name it, guys. So let's just go now. For this, d5 being pushed, okay, and bishop to a6, attacking the c4 white pawn. Obviously, you see that b3 now to defending, and b5 being pushed to challenging the c4 and making it into a weakness. Queen to c2, attacking the knight actually, so your knight is attacked. Black knight has to decide, go away or take, which he did take. And pawn takes. Knight takes the bishop, and you take it back. So this is, we're getting very close. We're getting very close to the moment I wanted to highlight to you guys. d6. Now, that's a particular backward pawn for black. The d6 black pawn. Not the end of the world. It's still incredibly equal, if I may say that. Knight to g3, making space for the bishop on f1. Okay. Along the diagonal, developing your pieces. Knight b8 to d7. Nothing weird in particular. Bishop to e2. Maybe you're going to castle short. Obviously, you're not going to castle long here for white, but just saying bishop to e2. Developing your pieces. Perhaps you're going to do castle short. Knight to f6 now. Obviously, you noticed attacking on d5, the white pawn on d5, queen to d2, defending that pawn which is attacked, and rook. Obviously, always a good idea. Get the rook from the f to the e. Never leave your rooks in a corner for too long because it's going to get very costly. And now there is an very interesting idea in the Nimzo-Indian for those of you guys that played, particularly with white here. You want to build up something with f3 and e4, which is pretty much deeming the knight on f6 quite useless because they can't do too many things on the king side and they need to relaunching themselves and stuff like that. So the f3, e4 here makes a lot of sense. Another good stuff is that there is no dark square black bishop that black may do. There is a queen, though. There is a queen that might be posing some issues, but it's totally worth it, especially if we pay attention, if we just remind ourselves that the d6 is a backward black pawn, and knight to f5 will just amounting more pressure on that weak pawn. But let's just take it step by step. Queen to b6. You connect the two rooks now. So the rooks are connected. Games, it's pretty much equal here. Again, not a problem at this stage. We're doing absolutely fine with white and black. Similarly, e4 being played exactly as we said. And bishop now goes to c8. Okay, what does that mean? Well, it means very many things here. It makes space for the a pawn to coming down the board. They want to go to d7, and they want to play in this fashion. Now, a4, this is the move. This is the move a4. And this is, by the way, guys, this is move number, let me double check. This is move number 19. And this is the key moment of the game. This is the moment. Move number 19, We are still in the opening preparation, so to speak. Well, towards the middle game. And this is an incredibly important moment. Let's just remind ourselves that we discussed about the backward pawn d6, which is attackable by the knight. Well, would be great, but the bishop on c8 is right here stopping your knight, right? So you can't really take full advantage of the knight on f5, which of course hits a little bit the g7. You know, in some ideal world, you might be having some quite nice checkmate pressure and stuff. So we've established that knight f5 attacks d6. Cool stuff. Now, what do you think black is supposed to play? First thing first, you mustn't trade your bishop. The bishop on c8 must stay on the board. Very important. So now black actually is supposed to take on a4, you take on a4, and bishop d7. And the bishop d7 will stay there, stopping the knight to play on f5 to attack your d6, g7, etc. Okay, so that's the best course of action. If you don't do that, and if you mess it up, exactly like, unfortunately, for that particular point in history in the game evolution, he went with bishop d7, which is, believe it or not, the beginning of the end. It's a very interesting thing to keep in mind, that actually one simple detail, just it's incredibly costly. Again, b takes a4 in the game is absolutely cool, is very much equal. B takes, a takes, bishop d7, game continues, white castles, etc., etc. We play normal chess, both of us, white and black. But bishop d7, do you know what that means? The bishop will get traded. This is the important subtlety just wanted to bring to your attention, guys. The bishop on d7 will get now traded. You may ask, why? How will it get traded? Well, I'm going to take your pawn. I just took a pawn from you. Practically, I'm absolutely cool. I took a pawn from you. This is important. You can't ignore it. You can't ignore the fact I took a pawn from you. You got to take it back. And you can't take it back with the queen. You got to take it back with the bishop. And guess what? We just traded bishops. We just traded bishops. And look at that guy on d6. We're talking about this backward pawn. This is the problem, and this is why, if you want the cause, the main cause for which black had lost this game, Praggnanandhaa lost this game, is because of the bishop d7, let's say. Of course, it's not the only factor, but that is the main cause. And we're going to get there. So now it's massive. It's good, not massive, but it's very advantageous for white, given the backward pawn, very much attackable. Whatever you try to do will be weakening the dark squares around the king. And of course, knight f5 targets two very important squares here. Now, of course, Pragg could have played, before we getting into the stuff he chose to do, a very wild move, by the way, which if it doesn't turn out the way you want to, you're just going to lose very fast. He should have continued with queen b6. We'll say all of the commentators and engines will just confirm the queen to b6, to which white just castles. We keep playing, you know, black has to keep an eye on this guy. Of course, white would like to trade off, because in the minute they trade off, the d6 is very attackable, takeable. Okay, so the long-term plan and weakness is the d6 backward pawn for black. He should have played queen b6, better chances for Pragg to stay in the game. You know, the game is not finished. Yeah, it is more advantageous for white, indeed, but the game is not finished. But he decided, probably he really suffered at the thought to having to defend that guy on d6 forever from the white knight. He decided to gamble with knight takes c4. Now he gave a knight for 2 pawns. Okay, so he took a pawn. I'm going to take it back, and rook takes c4, check. So now all is required from Nakamura is just to play accurate, because you're just winning here. White is winning. Why? Because you got an extra piece. Yeah, for 2 pawns, but a piece is ultimately a piece. King to f2. Rook attacks the knight. And now, just to tell you guys, because it's important, white had spent here roughly 35 minutes deciding what to do. There are 3 wonderful moves. During the stream, I was talking with my friends. By the way, I'm not using the engine during the live streams, but sparingly. So I was discussing with my friends, and I was telling them, look, if this thing were ever to occur in my game, in order for me to save an important amount of minutes, I would just play knight e3 and forget about it all. You know, I'll defend here. My knight is cool. I'm defending against the possible rook to f5 check, and I wouldn't be complicating it. Now, Nakamura, because he's a super grandmaster, he actually identified the best after play, which is knight d6. And you need to calculate quite a few variables here, okay? Because it's not very clear. That is why he spent almost 40 minutes thinking about what to play. There is also g4, magnificent move, but knight to d6. Also fabulous, fabulous stuff here. Knight to d6 attacks the queen. Queen goes to b6. Knight to c4, 4 king, queen, and black rook. Check with the queen. Mind you, guys, you have to play one move. If you mess it up, you're gone. That's it. You're going to cry. If you play something like king to g3, you're going to be in deep trouble, right? Because of this. And then it's just game over. You're losing the queen or you get checkmated. Your choice. Okay, so king g1 is the only move. And rook e2. One last little trick here thrown by Praggnanandhaa. What do you think is the best move? Just always, 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 always hold your horses before you're moving. Take your time. And fortunately for Nakamura, he had plenty of time on his clock here. He plays the right move. Boom, rook to f. Okay, because also rook to e2 tries to, attacks the queen while my queen attacks your rook on a1. So rook to f1 hits the queen. You take my queen, I take your queen, which is exactly what happened. Mind you, guys, rook is being under knight threat. So you can't just say, no, I'm going to take the guys. Because if you take that, I'm going to take that. I'm going to just play a king to f, and then rook is free to come into the game. Okay, so rook took on d5, and the white queen saved himself, but not just saved himself, they're actually playing on the third rank, which means there is no rook d3 to attacking on b3. That's for sure. Check, of course. Blocks. Obviously, you can't move king to f2 because you're just simply going to lose material. I hope that is clear, guys, for all of you. Rook goes back to attacking and capturing. And now I was, again, talking with my friends. And because out of panic, I was saying, hey, you got to play rook b1. The only move, the only move. It's not the only move. There is something so elegant. Not that rook b1 is wrong. Don't get me wrong. It's absolutely great. There's nothing wrong with this. But Nakamura, being the super grandmaster he is, he found it. The best, elegant, and magnificent knight a5. Knight a5, defense b3, and you can't attack the knight. You can't get closer, you can't take the pawn, and it's just great. It's just absolutely great. Now, rook to d2. Mind you, guys, the game is lost at this stage. h3, h4 work very well. Nakamura opted for h4 because probably he wants to play rook to h3 and eventually either making a battery or defending b3, of course. A very elegant way to moving the rook into the game. Rook now attacks the knight. Knight goes back. A file, pawn, pushing down the board. Actually, you don't have too many options. You need to play with those guys because that's the only thing you could do. And now, again, rather than taking, which, by the way, still wins for white. B takes a4, still wins. But there is something, again, very cool you could play straight away, and he did play it. Knight b6, hitting the rook and attacking the pawn on it. What could be more better than this? And knight takes a4. This is absolutely great. And rook h3, defense b3, you can't really take it. It's bad as it is. Rook to f4 now, so it doesn't allow any pawn, because if you push it, I'm going to take it straight away, which is not going to happen. Pragg now just pushing the pawn so that you can maneuver the king in case of a back rank issues. By the way, this is 80-something move game, so I'm going to just fast forward at some point, guys, because the main story of the game had been reached. That is that move number 19. But just wanted to roll up a bit faster here because, yeah, okay, so they're going to be maneuvering now the pieces, the rooks. The game is completely won by white, and at this level now, Super Grandmaster level, that's absolutely finished. But Pragg kept playing because, from a human psychology point of view, you may always blunder. So why not? But Nakamura didn't blunder. It wasn't the day. With a huge 97% accuracy, guys. Put it on your computers at home and you will see the level of chess mastery and craft that Nakamura had in this particular game. So a little bit of more dancing here. We're not going to stop with every single move because it's going to take absolutely, literally, probably forever. I'm just going to go to the terminus point. So look how much work does it take. So that's another example of how much work does it take to actually capitalize in this position here with a rook and knight versus king and rook. And he built up now something superb. So let me just go back. This move here, actually, it's the beginning of the end, because after rook to h7, guys, you probably notice, is pretty much unstoppable. Rook takes h5. That is if you don't want to give the rook on the e3 square, because whatever you try to do, it's going to be a rook h5, just simply checkmate. That's it. Okay, so at this stage now, Praggnanandhaa just simply resigned. They shook hands. Wonderful game. But what's more important for us guys to remember, let me go back. So that's move 86. Can you imagine that? Let me go to move 19, which is here. This is the most important moment of the game. For those of you guys that played, you've got to understand this. And remember, in this position, black mustn't trade the bishop on c8. That is the most important stuff that we need to retain from this game. In particular, you mustn't trade the bishop on c8, because if you do, you're gonna get into the position that we've seen. So it's important now. B takes a4, B takes a4, or push this guy. There's a variation. Just push this guy down the board to c4, but don't play bishop d7, because if you do so, you will be forced to trade the bishop with this move. If you don't trade now, if you don't take, I actually took a pawn from you. So practically, it's just bad. And when trading happens, of course, knight f5 is just wins it all. Okay. Thanks for watching this game, guys. Wonderful chess games at Norway Chess 2024. I hope, guys, that was useful in the Nimzo-Indian. Subscribe to this channel, guys. Join my live streams, by the way. We can discuss a lot of cool chess stuff together when we meet up virtually, so to speak. Thank you, guys. Enjoy the remainder of the day wherever you are, and I'll see you soon.